There is a phrase spoken by an anonymous source close to Qatar's government, published by the Financial Times on Monday morning. 9 words. And those 9 words contain more strategic honesty than anything said by any American official, any Israeli general, or any Gulf foreign minister since Operation Epic Fury began. The phrase is this: a cascade of economic harm. Not a warning, not a threat, a description. This person speaking to the Financial Times was not saying the production halt might cause harm. They were saying it will cause a cascade, the specific engineering term for a failure that propagates through a system in sequence, where each stage of failure triggers the next, and the next, and the next, until the system reaches a state that cannot be reversed by any single intervention. Qatar shut its LNG production knowing exactly what cascade it was starting. Knowing that European gas prices would surge 54% within the morning, knowing that Asian LNG benchmarks would jump 39% by afternoon, knowing that every German factory, every French power station, every Italian steel mill, every South Korean petrochemical plant dependent on Qatari supply would receive an emergency alert from its energy procurement desk within hours. Knowing all of that and shutting the production anyway, Qatar Energy's Ras Laffan plant covers approximately 1/5 of global liquefied natural gas supply. The halt is unprecedented. Bloomberg used that exact word on Monday morning. Not historically significant, not alarming. Unprecedented, meaning no event in the entire history of global LNG markets, not the 1973 oil embargo, not the 2019 Abqaiq attack, not the 2022 Russian pipeline shutdown that nearly deindustrialized Germany, has ever produced the simultaneous halting of 20% of global LNG supply in a single morning. And here is what none of the financial coverage has yet said directly. Qatar is not simply a victim of Iranian drones. Qatar has made a decision. The LNG shutdown is not merely a response to infrastructure damage. It is a weapon, the one weapon remaining to a country with no air force capable of stopping Iran, no missile stockpile large enough to matter, and no diplomatic channel left open to Washington. Qatar cannot stop this war with jets. It cannot stop it with phone calls. But it can make the cascade so economically unbearable for Europe, for Japan, for South Korea, for China, that those governments stop the war for it. As one defense analyst at King's College London put it simply, this is not their war. 5 words that describe the entire strategic position of every Gulf state currently absorbing Iranian missiles in exchange for hosting American bases, the same bases America used to kill Iran's supreme leader. This is not their war. And every hour of continued American operations is another hour of drone strikes on refineries, LNG terminals, hotels, ports, and airports in countries that had no vote when Trump and Netanyahu made their decision. Qatar's LNG shutdown is the economic equivalent of a hostage situation, except the hostage is not a person. The hostage is European industrial output, and the demand is not ransom. The demand is simple: make America stop. Now consider the mathematics of what that demand means, because the answer explains why this crisis is categorically different from everything that came before it. Europe is coming out of winter with natural gas storage below 30%. The buffer that should have accumulated through the heating season is not there. Every European steel mill, chemical plant, fertilizer producer, and glass manufacturer running on gas is operating right now at full demand, drawing from reserves already 10 percentage points below last year's level at the same date. Now remove 20% of global LNG supply. Now add the Strait of Hormuz, conditionally closed with 200 vessels anchored at its entrance, and Maersk having suspended all transits of both Hormuz and Bab el-Mandeb simultaneously. Anne-Sophie Corbeau at Columbia University's Center on Global Energy Policy put a number to it. A prolonged loss of natural gas supplies from the Middle East could reach 120 billion cubic meters per year. For context, the drop in Russian gas pipeline supplies in 2022, the crisis that sent European gas prices to 340 per megawatt hour, forced Germany to restart coal plants closed for climate reasons, forced France to cut industrial production, and pushed European households to choose between heating and eating. That crisis involved 80 billion cubic meters. This one is larger, and unlike 2022, there is no spare capacity to redirect. American LNG export terminals are already operating at 100% capacity. There is no replacement supply available from the country whose president started this war. The chain that connects a Qatari gas molecule to a loaf of bread on a supermarket shelf in Berlin is not complicated. It is just invisible, until it breaks. Natural gas heats industrial furnaces. Those furnaces produce steel. Steel makes the machinery that produces fertilizer. Fertilizer grows food. Gas also directly produces ammonia, and the primary input for nitrogen fertilizer. When gas prices surge 54% in a single morning, ammonia production costs spike immediately. Within weeks, nitrogen fertilizer costs spike. Within months, the cost of planting the spring crop rises. By summer, the food price cascade that started from a drone strike on a water tank in Musaid has reached the retail price of bread in Germany, pasta in Italy, cooking oil in Poland. Gas prices, heating bills, electricity bills, three categories of household expense touching every European family, not the wealthiest, not those with solar panels and heat pumps, but every family in every apartment in every city that runs on gas heat and gas-powered electricity, all rising simultaneously, all visibly and measurably traceable back to two Iranian drones and one decision made by Qatar Energy. Now consider the position of the European governments watching their energy benchmark surge in real time. These are the same governments whose prime ministers have condemned the American-Israeli strikes in carefully graduated diplomatic language. Britain saying it doesn't believe in regime change from the skies, France calling for maximum restraint, Germany still debating. These are governments facing elections, industrial lobbying, trade union pressure. And now they are facing a 54% gas price spike that their populations will experience as a personal financial injury within weeks. The political mandate these governments hold was built on promises of energy security and economic stability. That mandate is being burned from underneath them by a war their populations did not ask for and their governments did not vote on. And into that vacuum, Vladimir Putin made a phone call. Not through intermediaries, not through the UN Security Council. Putin called the Qatari emir directly, the leader of the country whose gas production just shut down, whose LNG shutdown sent European prices to levels that make Russian pipeline gas, at whatever terms Moscow chooses to offer, more economically attractive than any alternative available in the market. Putin expressed hope for rapid de-escalation. What Putin means by rapid de-escalation is this: Europe calls Moscow. Moscow provides gas. American strategic leverage over European energy policy ends. The post-Ukraine energy realignment, 3 years of painful, expensive, deliberate European effort to end dependence on Russian supply, reverses in a single week. And Russia emerges from a war it did not start and was not a formal party to as the indispensable energy partner of a continent that spent 3 years trying to escape it. Qatar did not choose this war. Qatar built Ras Laffan and sold its gas to 120 countries and used those revenues to build towers, airports, football stadiums, and a global diplomatic reputation. It hosted an American military base at enormous political cost to its relationship with Iran, the same base whose jets helped kill Iran's supreme leader. And now, in 1 week, that reputation is smoking. Every terminal is idle. Every foreign executive planning to relocate their regional headquarters to Doha is reconsidering. The tourism is gone. The property values are falling. The LNG revenue is halted. The early warning radar that cost $500 million is rubble. Qatar hosted the American base, and the war chose Qatar. The cascade that anonymous spokesperson described to the Financial Times is not only an economic cascade, it is a legitimacy cascade, a propagating failure in the political justification for the entire American alliance system in the Gulf. When Bahrain's hospitals are full, Qatar's LNG is shut, Saudi Arabia's Ras Tanura is halted, the UAE's data centers are offline, and European gas is up 54%, every population in every one of those countries is asking its government the same question Qatar's spokesperson answered on Monday morning. Was hosting the American base worth this cascade? Share this with everyone you know right now. Qatar has shut 20% of global LNG supply, not just from damage, but as a deliberate weapon to pressure Europe to pressure Trump. European gas is up 54%. America's LNG terminals are maxed out. There is no replacement supply. The volume lost exceeds what Russia cut in 2022. Putin has personally called the Qatari emir, and the cascade, from gas prices to electricity bills to fertilizer to food, has already begun.